I call the Honourable David Cunliffe.
Oh, Chairman, I'm very much enjoying my colleague's peroration there, so apologies to my colleague. This is more a signalling call. Mr Chairman, I rise to take a short call in support of this piece of legislation. And I'm going to pose a question at the start of this contribution, come back to it in the end. And the question is, if a minister falls in the forest and there's no one there to hear it, has he really fallen? And if the gas stops pumping, from an offshore oil platform and no one hears it stop, has it really stopped pumping? The answer to the latter question, sir, is that, Mr Foss, that was very sino of you. The answer to the second question is yes, because if the gas stops pumping, people's lights will go out, people's industries will grind to a halt, and people won't be able to do what they need to do to get by. And that is the kicker with this bill. We just cannot, as a country, on either side of the floor, have a situation where a station which is producing 20% of our gas goes offline. And that justifies an intervention which has been brought about because this bill needs to amend Section 162 of the EEZ legislation. The problem, for those who've just joined us, is that not you, Chris Bishop, you joined us at the last election. I mean people who've just started listening in. Chris Bishop's been here 5 minutes and he thinks he's an expert. Well, you know, that'll wear off. That'll wear off, Chris. As the guy sitting right behind you will be happy to tell you. Well, you know, the way the government's been performing, I wouldn't be surprised if a few have turned out. But here's why the change is necessary. Because poor old Todd has got an appeal underway, and the risk for them on their, yeah, maybe not poor, maybe not that old, but it's a figure of speech. So they have the potential for an appeal which could interrupt their resource consent under the EEZ legislation. If it's appealed, they are held up from operations until the appeal has been heard and granted. And that is the catch-22 which this bill is seeking to correct. And fair enough, because we do not want an unintended consequence where a legitimate appeal right results in a preemptive cessation of production when it's not required. So that's the problem we're trying to fix. This, however, is an inelegant solution for a couple of reasons. Number one, inelegant but necessary. Number one, it names an individual company. That's bad legislative practice. We ought to be making across-the-board rules, not legislating for individual stuff-ups by ministers. Number two, it's retrospective. Only in the rarest occasions will Parliament accommodate retrospective change, and generally only when it's citizen-friendly, as this arguably is. Three, this is ad hoc, not strategic. It doesn't, as my colleague Stuart Nash said, fit neatly in a plan of an ongoing increase in our energy self-sufficiency. However, it is what it is. And fourthly, of course, it's a patch-up job. It's a fix-up for a ministerial error, which brings me to the first of the two questions. The minister falling in the forest, of course, is Nick Smith, deputised today to be as far away from Parliament as he could possibly be because he's had a right roasting over housing. And he's the same minister who's responsible for the lack of foresight in seeing this appeal provision as a problem, putting the original bill through so that Parliament now has to arguably waste its time to fix up those mistakes. If a minister falls in the forest but there's no one there to hear it, has he really fallen? Well, those who might be looking to fill his shoes know that he will have. Can we fix this? Yes, we can. Yes, we will. Yes, we need to. Should we be here doing this? No, we shouldn't. So it is with some reluctance, but with cooperation, that the Labour opposition is supporting this bill.